good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 28th of February, and a very good evening to all of you. Welcome back, it's good to see you. So this evening we're going to talk about Matteo Salvini again and the Northern League, because there's been a couple of elections in Abruzzo and Sardinia in Italy just recently, and they have made stunning gains. The Northern League, that is, have made stunning gains in southern Italy, and this gives you a kind of idea of where the Northern League is going. I think they're set to take a majority, which is actually very rare in Italy, in their parliament in the next elections. However, as a backdrop to this, there are a couple of things going on, not the least of which is the fact that Italy is going very quietly bankrupt. In fact, it really went bankrupt officially in 2011, but they've been using smoke and mirrors and the buying of government bonds and so on and so forth to create the illusion of a market around Italy. And it's kind of interesting to see the growth of populism around the world that seems to come with the backdrop of some kind of financial difficulty, and the people calling out for some kind of fiscal responsibility to take place. Yeah, unfortunately in these past elections too, the Five-Star movement took a bit of a bruising, and that's too bad, because I kind of really like what they stand for, which is fiscal responsibility and Italy as a sovereign nation taking back control over its own finances. And again, I'm certain they're going to have their central bank lend them money at 0% interest rate, because at some point, and we don't know when. I mean, we have all these people who try and prognosticate and predict and so on and so forth, but when you look at revolutions, recessions, depressions and so on and so forth, there are actually thousands of small transactions taking place that make these things happen. It's not one particular incident, it's a combination of things that take place, very, very much unsung in many cases, because they are, a combination of small things. But I think it is an indication that people are very much concerned about the fiscal situation and the unemployment situation, which is starting to really boil over. Greece has got, I think I said the other day, 40 to 50% youth unemployment. This is at revolution levels. Okay, that's a significant amount of disenfranchised and disenchanted people who have no hope for the future, no hope of a family. Especially for men, this is a really big deal, with men not being able to support a family or to be a breadwinning father. And regardless of what ideology and belief system seems to be floating around the world these days, really do have meaning and effect in the real world. People, I believe it's hardwired. Just as in all species, the male tries to protect the female while she raises the young, and the male helps out wherever he can. And that is just, it seems, it's demonstrable. It ripples through everything that we see on this planet. That urge for women to nest and to have children, and for men to want to father those children and protect the mother and child. This is universal. I can't think of a culture that doesn't have that as its centre. And of course, even every religion is based around the Virgin Mary, the mother. So there you go. Yep, this is a very important thing, and culturally. Let's test these articles, and then I'll come back and do a quick wrap up. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is from the local analysis. Salvini's League is in charge in Italy. These local elections prove it. One half of Italy's government trouts the other in Abruzzo and Sardinia. It's a sign which way the wind is blowing nationwide, writes David Vampa, lecturer in politics at Aston University. February has been an important month in Italian politics. Elections took place in Abruzzo and Sardinia, two regions located in the south of the country. Both are swing constituencies, so the way they vote in regional elections provides important clues about changing national trends. The elections were also seen as the first electoral test for the new governing coalition, which brings together Matteo Salvini's League and the five-star movement M5S, but is led by Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte. But while the League performed strongly in both Abruzzo and Sardinia, the M5S suffered bruising defeats. In both regions, the League led centre-right coalitions to victory, unseating the incumbent centre-left governments to install their own regional presidents. In Abruzzo, the League doubled its support from 13.8% in last year's general election to 27.5%, becoming the largest political force. In Sardinia, it won 11% of the vote. And even this latter result, though less dazzling, is historic because Salvini's party has traditionally found very little traction in the south of Italy. It didn't even run candidates in these two regions 5 years ago. In fact, the League used to be a regionalist party called the Northern League. Its main aim was to secure more autonomy for northern Italian regions. For a while in the late 1990s, the party even campaigned for the independence of the north. Its transformation into a nativist nationalist party, similar to the French National Front, it started after 2013 under Salvini's leadership. Today the party campaigns across the whole Italian territory with increasing success. It is probably the only case in Europe, and perhaps globally, of a regionalist party being able to radically change its territorial focus and become one of its main statewide parties. The five-star movement in crisis. Meanwhile, M5S is in crisis. Only a year ago in the general election, it had won stunning victories in both regions, obtaining about 40% of the vote. This time round, it had halved its share of the vote in Abruzzo and experienced an even more dramatic collapse in Sardinia, from 42.5% in 2018 to around 11% of the vote. The M5S came behind both centre-right and centre-left coalitions, which dominated the electoral competition. Nor is Italy's current economic situation helping. Last year, the M5S won an impressive mandate from constituencies, mainly from the south, that had suffered particularly from the economic crisis. Now it must answer for its record in government rather than growth. Italy is experiencing its first recession since 2013. And just as a bit of a sidebar here, Italy's five-star movement votes to block Salvini trial. This was the kidnapping trial that Salvini was going to be tried for. The five-star pledged to clean up Italian politics when it came to power last year, but a vote on Salvini's political immunity put it in a messy situation. Today, the Italian Senate's immunity panel voted to refuse a request from criminal prosecutors to proceed with charges of kidnapping and abuse of power against Interior Minister Matteo Salvini, who is also leader of the far-right League. This is the London School of Economics and Political Science. Euro crisis in the press, the quiet collapse of the Italian economy. While attention on the euro crisis has been focusing primarily on Greece and Cyprus, it is no mystery that Italy, alongside with Spain, constitutes the real challenge for the future of the common currency. In any direction, events will be unfolding. In the relative silence of the international press, Italy's macroeconomic situation has been showing no sign of improvement, and indeed numerous indicators portray a national economy which finds itself in a depression rather than in a however severe recession. It is no overstatement that the Italian economy is currently collapsing. Italy is the third largest economy of the Eurozone after Germany and France, holds the largest public debt, over 2 trillion euros, which has been growing at an astonishing pace even in more recent times, and particularly as a ratio to GDP, 130%. Since the latter is contracting fast, how is this sustainable? Well, it is not. But for the moment, thanks to the ECB, this is the European Central Bank, direct interventions, 102 billion euros of Italian bond purchases in 2011-12, and especially to the LTRO mechanisms, the finances of the Italian state can still be kept afloat. Italian banks have been absorbing 268 billion euros of liquidity issued by the ECB by means of the LTRO program. In its essence, the mechanism is the following. Because the ECB cannot lend liquidity directly to the states except in times of absolute emergency and for the stabilization of financial markets in the short term, as happened in 2011, it lends money to the banks, which in turn purchase government-issued bonds. Interesting, the LTRO scheme has become an instrument for the relatively orderly withdrawal of international investors from Italy, especially French and German, whose share of public debt has fallen from 51% to 35%, mirroring the rise of Italian banks purchasing public debt. This is an important signal which goes in the opposite direction of an increased interdependency as would be expected from a monetary union in preparation for a political union. It is arguable that many investors are actually systematically reducing their exposure in southern Europe, possibly hoping that the future breakup of the common currency will have less harmful consequences if their involvement in the financial and economic destiny of those countries is curtailed to the minimum. For Eurosceptics, it is a signal that once all foreign investors withdraw, Italy will be left to its fate. The truth is that the Italian state went bankrupt in summer 2011 when interest rates on the national debt went out of control, and as a result Italy lost access to the financial markets. Of course, because of the sheer dimensions of Italy as an economy and as a debtor, the ECB and political authorities in Europe have agreed to create around the country's finances the appearance of a market, which is in fact, as the numbers show above, largely artificial. Ideally, Italy should stay on this artificial support until the economic conditions improve and confidence is restored to such a level that the country will have again access to a normal credit market. However, this is not happening, and there is no sign that it's going to happen in the years to come. The situation of the Italian economy is simply dramatic. Recently, a study has appeared which reveals how the current crisis, 2007-2013, is in many ways much worse than the 1929-34 contraction in the present crisis. Okay, so we can see Italy is in a lot of trouble. So I know it was a bit doom and gloomy, but I think it's really more of a call to stock up on a little bit of food, try and get some of those bills under control, try and form some kind of community wherever you live as a support network so you can support each other if times get difficult, maybe communal gardens, that kind of thing, learning how to grow food yourself. These are going to be incredibly important issues in the years to come. I can't overstate the damage that has been done by the financial system that we have, putting everybody in debt, every country in debt, every government in debt, personal debt, wherever you look, it is just a sea of debt that's never going to get paid off. And as long as we keep pretending that it can be paid off through the printing of money, you're going to grind basically more and more and more people into the ground, and this will give a greater and greater rise to populist movements. And the further people are ground into mincemeat by inflation, the more extreme the type of leaders will be elected. This is where strongmen start coming into play, because there is an equal and opposite. That's just the way humans are, I'm afraid. And there's a lot of us, and unless they're planning to kill a whole bunch of us off, this is the direction that we're heading into for the foreseeable future. And I always find it interesting that as we look back in history, we find repeated over and over and over again that dynasties and civilizations in fact fell because instead of making some real revisions to the way business was done when the problems all started, it's this hanging on for dear life. That's the problem. That it goes way past its due date, and then you get the revolution. Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't know, was it Rousseau said that which is about to fall deserves to be pushed. And so speak your truth to power. Speak your truth to power before it's too late. Because we're seeing the internet being shut down, controlled and managed to close out any narrative that contradicts the narrative that the elites want to push forward. So, yep, I think it's time to get on board and start thinking about a little bit of personal survival. Okie dokie. Well, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and comment below. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off and wishing you a great weekend coming up. Okay, we'll talk to you very soon. See you now. Bye.